All right, so today we are going to be going over everything to do with inspections. What are they? Why do we need them? Which ones do I need to get? How do I find an inspector? Just everything that you need to know to have a successful inspection when you are in the process of buying a house. Now, my name is Sam Oler, and I'm a realtor in the greater Cleveland area. So if you're starting to think about moving this way, definitely reach out to me. I've got a lot of programs in place that are gonna make your life moving here a lot easier. Whether you're moving in 9 months or 9 weeks, we're gonna be able to get you helped out. Now, jumping back to today's topic, which is going to be related to inspections, these are not something that you really wanna take lightly. This is such an important part of the process because it unravels the house. The inspector is gonna dig super deep and look everywhere that you couldn't look during that first walkthrough of the home when you decided that you loved it. It's gonna give you a very good idea as far as the quality of the asset that you're purchasing. So you're in the process of buying a home, you just got an offer accepted, you're super excited, now it's time for inspections. It's incredibly important to keep in mind throughout this process that there is no perfect inspection. It is incredibly rare that something does not come back on an inspection report. Whether the house is 100 years old or if the house is brand new, the inspector is probably gonna find something wrong with the house. So just keep that in mind. Now, the main thing that we're gonna be looking for on these inspection reports are going to be health and safety related. These are the things that are going to impact the deal right now and things that you're going to have to live with further in the future. Stuff that is regular maintenance you're not going to be worried about. You just need to be informed on how to upkeep the house, which I'm gonna be able to help you out with as we go through the process. But essentially what an inspection is a non-invasive examination of the home, and it's often in connection with the sale of the home itself. Now, my personal definition of it is basically just a third party that you hire to come into the home and just give an honest assessment of what the condition of the asset is. And when I say asset, I mean the house. These people are properly licensed and trained, so that way you're not bringing in just some random contractor telling you what's wrong with the house just so they can get a payday. The inspector is someone who does not have a stake in the actual purchase of the house itself. You can think of an inspector almost like a trusted mechanic, where if you're thinking about buying a car, you're probably gonna bring that car over to the mechanic to do a safety inspection for a small fee. They'll let you know if it's gonna last long or what you can expect to fix in the near future, and really just give you an unbiased opinion so that way you can make a decision for yourself. Now, when you hire the inspector, you're going to set up a time and a date for them to run through the home, and they're probably gonna spend between an hour and a half to 3 hours at the property, depending on what the size is and what inspections you have them doing. But what they're gonna do is go through the house with a fine-tooth comb. They're gonna start on the outside, they're gonna start at the top of the house, look at the roof, make sure that's all in good condition. They're gonna look at all of the fascia, the gutters, the exterior. They're gonna see where any possible leaking points could be. They're gonna make sure the grass is graded away from the house so that way the water washes away properly. While they're on the inside, they're gonna be looking for things that would be cause of concern, like leaky pipes, bad electrical, making sure all the outlets are in working order, just making sure there's no safety hazards inside the house related to like mold or the actual structure itself. They'll look under the sinks to make sure all the plumbing is hooked up properly. They're gonna turn all the sinks on, flush all the toilets, turn the showers on, make sure all the plumbing is working in proper order. Once they get to the basement, they'll do an assessment on all of the mechanicals like the furnace, hot water tank, any sort of well system if you've got a sump pump. They're gonna do an extremely deep dive on the house just to make sure that everything is in working order, and like I said before, you know what you're getting yourself into. The cool part about the inspector is that they're gonna have a pretty good knowledge base, and they're probably gonna have some connections that they can hook you up with if something does need fixed, but they're an extremely valuable resource to bring in on the deal. Now, with them building this report for you, you're going to be able to keep that and have access to it and reference back to it after you move in. And you really want to understand everything about the house before you move into it, because this is such a big investment. A lot of the times, this is the biggest investment that people are going to make throughout their lifetime. You're probably going to be living in the house for at least 5 years, and a lot of the times, it's an even more significant portion of your life as well. A lot of people will live in the same house that they bought for 20 or 30 years. And depending on what type of market you're buying that home in, it's going to dictate what you can do with your inspections. So if it's a seller's market like it was over the last few years, there's a pretty good chance you've heard of people giving up their inspections so that way they could get their deal accepted. I can confidently say that the majority of my deals that I do come with an inspection contingency, and it's not very hard for me to get accepted. You just need to be working with the right agent who knows how to navigate the market that they're currently working in. The other thing that happens when you give up your inspection period is that you totally miss out on a whole nother renegotiation period. I use this inspection period to get more money for my buyers, just so that way they have a little bit of savings up front. Now, you can go about this a few different ways. You can ask for the seller to perform some different repairs if and when something comes back bad on the inspection, or you can ask for some more money off, which is what I normally do. When you ask for money off, you can either subtract it from the purchase price, or you can ask for the seller to cover some of your closing costs, which is going to save you money up front. So it really depends on what your scenario is, but no matter what you do, it's going to benefit you. Now, the reason I suggest asking for money off rather than having the seller fix stuff is because you can control who does the work. And if you're particularly handy, you can handle that fix yourself for a lot cheaper price then you ask for money off. And what I mean by that is if a contractor were to charge you $1,500 to fix something, chances are you could get the materials for about 500 bucks and then save yourself $1,000 in labor. So depending on what the situation is, you can get very creative with what you do. Now, when you're renegotiating, keep in mind that the sellers have the ability to say no. However, I found that most people are willing to work with you if something is truly wrong. During this time, you're not trying to pull one over on the sellers, you're just trying to ask for a fair compensation for what is actually wrong with the house. Now, when you're setting your inspection, you're gonna realize that there are a ton to choose from. Just on my contract alone, I have 9 options plus a few others available. But what I recommend to the people that I help buy homes is that you just get a general inspection. Unless you're a VA loan, then you need to get PEST. And then while the general inspector's there, he's gonna be able to find something that looks like, say, mold, and he'll be like, hey, this looks like mold. I'm not a mold professional, but you should get this looked at by a mold professional. So that way you can determine whether or not it is or is not an issue. The same thing is gonna go with structure. They're gonna know what looks wrong, but they're gonna have to recommend that someone else look at it. And they can do the same thing with pest as well. Now, if you're in the Ohio area, radon is a pretty common thing, which I have a whole separate video about. You can go learn about it over there. But essentially what it is a gas that comes up out of the earth and it's known to cause cancer. So if the house has a basement, that's another one that I would recommend getting just if you wanna be safe. But if you're not gonna be using that basement area, then it's really up to you. Now, if the house has septic and well, you should absolutely get those inspected right away, just because you're gonna need to know what condition it's in and the age of it. A lot of these septic and well systems around here are extremely old, and you're gonna wanna make sure that they are in good working order, because septic works with some pretty nasty stuff and it has to be filtered properly. And with wells, that's commonly gonna be your drinking water, so you need to make sure that is healthy, because you could get incredibly sick if it is not kept up with. Other inspections that you can have on the house are gonna include everything from a sewer scope to structure, lead-based paint, mold, pest and wood destroying insects, and there's even more on top of that, but those are just a few. Now, in the Northern Ohio area, the most common inspection issues that I come across are going to be different things like peeling paint, which is related to lead-based paint, and that's a whole nother topic that will take too much time to explain. But lead paint was essentially outlawed in 1978, so any houses newer than that aren't gonna have that issue, but there is the possibility that an older house might. Another very common issue is related to roofs, just because they are very easy to lack with maintenance. You wanna make sure everything is sealed up properly and all of the shingles are in good condition. And it's just one of those really costly repairs that are kind of a pain in the butt to take on yourself. So it's super easy to neglect. Wet basements are also pretty common around here, just because it's super easy to neglect the maintenance on your lawn, so that way the water washes away from the property rather than towards it. And I've talked about this in a million different videos. Just having that proper grading on your lawn is going to solve about 90% of your problems as far as water goes downstairs. Moving into some of the smaller repairs that are pretty common, it's going to be related to plumbing and electrical, whether if there's a leaky pipe or ungrounded outlets. It's just little things that are cheap and easy to fix. But if left untreated, it can cause a lot of damage to your home. Now, I've talked a lot about what the inspection process is and what it entails and what you can expect with it. However, you need to understand how to properly choose an inspector. In my opinion, you can't just pick any random inspector to come do the job, because while they're all qualified and trained the same way, they all don't have the same opinions, and it could really impact on how you view the home. You want to work with someone that you trust and who is going to be able to explain to you what is wrong with the house, rather than just telling you the house is a pile of garbage. If you know someone personally who's an inspector, you have the ability to choose them. You could always ask family and friends who their inspector was and how they like them, and possibly use them for your transaction. Or you can ask your realtor, because chances are they're going to have a trusted professional that they work with and they know you're going to be taken care of. Now, me personally, I don't recommend anyone that I don't commonly work with for my own properties. So that's just something to keep in mind. I have a bunch of horror stories of clients picking random people that they have no interaction or connection with, coming in and just doing an absolutely terrible job on the inspections. I've had inspectors giving opinions on price all the way to totally missing massive leaks in houses. And after the buyer moves in, they find out about this and it is just a way bigger problem than it needs to be. than if they just picked someone who I referred to them and probably would have found that massive leak during the inspection period. So I guess what I'm essentially getting at is be careful when you are picking your inspector. Now, I hope you gained a lot of insight from this video and that it helped you understand the process a little bit better of what to expect when the inspection period does come and how to navigate it. If you have any questions or if you're thinking about buying a home in the greater Cleveland area, feel free to reach out to me. All of my contact information is down in the description along with my social media. So if you find yourself down there switching pages, before you go, click that like button and subscribe because it is going to help me out a ton and keep you up to date with everything that's going on in the greater Cleveland area, whether it be events or just what it's like living here. I try to keep everyone up to date with all the happenings. So with all that being said, I'm going to leave the video there. I'll catch you in the next one.